our very good friend, Hans Dockter.
Hey.
Yes.
Nice, good to see you, Hans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Hans, you're here on the exhibition floor. What does it feel like to be an exhibitionist?
It gives me the usual kick.
Excellent. What do you think of J-Focus so far?
It's an excellent conference. Good. I mean, highly qualified attendees and very good speakers. Very good speakers dinner. Wonderful location with a lot of daylight. So it's awesome.
Excellent. So, any favorite bits so far? We haven't had a lot of the conference yet, but
right, exactly.
How was your ride in this morning?
Don't mention that. The taxi system is a little bit weird in Stockholm, but you have to negotiate your rates, so I have to figure that one out. But no, yesterday from the Hacker Garden, there were a Gradle ASCII doc plugin came out of J-Focus, thanks to Andre.
There he is.
So,
cool.
So from a Gradle perspective, already a very successful conference.
Very good.
Yes. So Gradle 1.3 is it out yet?
1.4 is out.
1.4 is out.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So we're very fast. Too fast for the Java Posse to pick up.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, for some of the Java Posse.
Some of them, yeah. All right, so you know better, Carl. What talk about 1.4 and 1.3 and what's new and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, tell us about what are the biggest, maybe the last couple. 1.3 was also very recent.
Yeah.
So tell us maybe a little bit about what's big in 1.3 and 1.4 and sort of the plan.
So I think the big new feature in 1.4 is I think that there's so many open issues when it comes to dependency management in the Java world. I would say in also for other platforms. So there's so many standard use cases in the enterprise that can't be solved properly. Just starting with you have a Spring All and a Spring Core jar in your class path, right? And none of the dependency management systems out there so far is able to realize, hey, they contain the same stuff. So if there's a version conflict, we have to do something about it. Or just like or there are other typical scenarios. I was talking with the JBoss Rules guy. When they refer to the whole software stack, they need to kind of model this is a releasable unit, and only those components of that release can work with other components of that release. So they're not other external libraries. They belong to a releasable unit, and they can only share one version number. And so many, there are plenty of use cases out there that you can't model at the moment, which is a shame. And in 1.4 we finally introduced our first approach. It's incubating to model this kind of stuff and to enforce your rules that you have as an organization. So I think that's a big step forward in our domain, and I'm very excited about that. So that's for me, in terms of scope, the biggest feature we started to tackle.
Right.
So
cool. I know about 1.3 primarily. In 1.3. Yeah. So can you? What is the Scala support that was added? What was that? And what else went into 1.3 as well? Because that's only happened fairly recently too.
So I mean, we had many Scala developers that were using Gradle and were saying, hey, I mean, without incremental compile, things just doesn't fly in the Scala world. So thanks to TypeSafe, who provided now Zinc as an incremental compiler tool that you can integrate with other build systems. We now could integrate that, and we now have a fast incremental Scala compile, similar to what SBT has to offer. So that was basically the requirement to make it a feasible tool to use in the Scala world. And now we're trying to improve things, to introduce the REPL, to make it easier to work on a Scala project and say, hey, I need to produce output for different Scala versions, need to compile against different Scala versions. And we talked about that yesterday. Another thing I think that is missing in the dependency management domain is the concept that I have a library but it is made and need to be built differently for multiple platforms. So in C++ it's obvious, but also in Scala, because of the non-existing binary backwards compatibility, the same library need to be built for 2.9, for 2.10, for Groovy it's the same, and now even, finally, in Java we have that problem.
Right.
Thanks God, because there's some innovation. I now want to have the same library, but I use some of the Java 7 features, but I still want to support Java 6, so I have different sets. And it's not just the classifier, those different variants, as we call them. They might even have different Java docs, because they use certain different features. They might have different sources.
Yeah, especially
so
when Java 8 comes out, that's especially going to be true with Lambda.
Absolutely, and they might have different dependencies. So there's no, at the moment, it's difficult to model that kind of concept. I think Ivy would give you a lot of flexibility when you do a lot of handcrafting, right, to model that. And we want to make that concept also a first-class citizen. And the Android folks have the problems as well.
Yeah.
So because of because of the cooperation with the Android folks, a lot of stuff has been prioritized in that area. So a lot is to happen, because we're kind of targeting the full Gradle Android release in kind of May, June this year. So that's another nice list of priorities we have because of that.
That'll be a major milestone, right?
Yes.
Very large, complex project built with Gradle.
Yes.
So I would say maybe how is the IDE integration, tool integration going with Gradle?
Let's say it's going along good. I mean, we're not happy with a certain state at the moment, but there's a lot of progress happening, especially for IDEA. So that's now for them a top priority, and we're watching their commit logs, and finally the Gradle support in IDEA is getting really well. And that means it's very promising, and they're thinking now of making it a first-class citizen, and which has become an important IDE again. I wouldn't have thought that 6 years ago, but it's really, they did a great job. And
there's kind of a critical mass problem, right? The guys who are working on the IDEs don't want to spend time on something they're not sure about.
100%.
The people don't want to use it until the IDEs have it. So now we've
Yes.
reached maybe this critical mass where the momentum is going to help accelerate both sides.
And we wouldn't have the resources to tackle that and the knowledge. That would have been the other alternative. We just write all that IDE support, but that is beyond our available bandwidth. So yeah, absolutely, it's a nice indication that the critical mass is there, and of course the Android adoption is an important aspect of that. So that makes things easier with the tool vendors.
Right.
So,
excellent. Yeah.
So I'm going to break one of the cardinal rules of interviewing, which is I'm going to ask a question about which I actually have no idea what the answer is. So it may or may not make sense, but are you guys aware of what JFrog is doing with bin tray?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so you have that's on the radar, or is it actually in the product now?
Yes, I mean, so the first thing we're waiting on a pull request from the bin tray folks that JCenter becomes a language element when you define your repository, similar like Maven Central. So in that respect, and I think the Java community really deserves a very rich portal and repository for the great open source ecosystem we have. Not just some file store, right? But something where you can interact, where human beings can kind of interact and say, I'm interested in progress here, I want to make comments here, I want to have a discussion here.
Yeah.
And
talk about the all jar versus the core jar, right? And issues around
the
dependency graph, right? And work through those at the community level as well as the technical level.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's exciting. I kind of was waiting for that for a long time in terms of not knowing who will provide that, but yeah.
Cool. Anything else you can... Are you looking forward to the Java Posse Roundup?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to the Java Posse Roundup at the end of the month, right? And I'm looking forward to the first Gradle conference in June in the Bay Area, the Gradle Summit. From June 13 until June 14.
Oh, that's
Carl
a good
will
time.
present, the Google Android team will present.
Oh, I might come along
you
to
might
that.
present on the Scala issues.
Well, I'll come along and visit, definitely.
Yeah.
So that sounds good. It's a good time of year. There's not too much going on then, so that's really good.
And it's in a nice neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
Oh yes, I'm very much looking forward. So one thing, I mean, with your dependency injection framework for Scala, one thing I always wanted to ask you, writing a dependency injection framework for Scala, does it just allow you to make things more convenient, or do the features of Scala allow you also to do something really innovative, something to kind of qualitatively enhance the concept of dependency injection?
I think both of those things are true. So interesting, you've turned the interview around.
Voila.
So answer number one is that incrementally there's an improvement because the DSL capabilities are so great on Scala. So it's a much neater DSL to configure the bindings. Very clean with, fluent API kind of, it reads like English for the binding. But I think the other one is the kind of revolutionary part of it is it heavily uses implicit parameters, which is something not a lot of other languages have right now. And that's the way the configuration gets passed around. So the compiler does the heavy lifting for you. It means that subcut can only work in Scala. It won't work with any other languages. Yeah. But if you can use Scala, it's a very clean, simple implementation. So, well, it looks like it's clearing out here. So either they've got fed up with us, or it's time for the next session, I think.
Those guys keep talking, interrupting our coffee break.
On the upside, I can hear you now.
Okay, without the speakers, right? Yeah.
So anyway, well. Anything else you want to cover before we?
Maybe give us a little sneak preview of what's coming in Gradle 1.5.
Yeah.
So what's your roadmap? What's the?
Yes, good. I mean, I'm so excited about. We stick to our 6 weekly release cycle, 6 to 8 week, and every release has significant functionality.
Stuff gets on the train.
Yes. So in one thing in 1.5, I'm looking forward to. Might be 1.5 or early 1.6. Not sure yet. Is one of the really nice features of Gradle is the incremental build. And we push that to the next level. Right now, Gradle decides for you something has changed, execute, something doesn't have changed, don't execute. But now we're providing an API, so even if something has changed and we trigger the task can ask, what exactly has changed? And can do then incremental stuff, and only the necessary stuff. And it gets information about the output that has changed, the input that has changed, so that is...
an alternate way of transforming the input to the output, right? To optimize based on sub changes.
So you can do some smart stuff. Some tasks can't make you, if something has changed, they need to rebuild everything, like Java doc.
Yeah.
But obviously some other tasks can be really smart about, if something has changed, but only a little bit, I only need to do a little bit, like an incremental compile or whatever. So exposing this to the public, that's exciting. We continue with our Scala support, adding a REPL and other stuff we want to do. Continuing with the dependency management stuff I've talked about. There's already a lot of stuff in 1.5. There's a dashboard plugin already in 1.5. So finally, people asking about Maven Site and stuff like that. Yeah. So that will be our offering in that respect. What else? There's more. There's even more on the list. Another thing is, but that might lead too far. Is improving the whole way you can publish libraries. If you have different destinations, like I have one publication, I have one component, but its destination is WebLogic, Embedded Jetty, and WebSphere. The way you want to assemble that is different depending on the destination platform. It's something like in Maven that is covered with the provided scope, but I think you can push that idea much farther and much more, let's say, powerful. Do it in a powerful way for the use cases you find in big enterprise scenarios.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
All right. So I think it's time for the next session. Yeah. That was probably good. Hans, thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thanks.
Best of luck. I understand business is going really well. I hope that continues.
Yeah,
and you're moving to the Bay Area as well.
Yes, awesome. I'm very excited about that.
Party!
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Thanks, man.
Cool.